I guess that's the way I like it. That makes me rumble. Don't we rumble? Float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Ah, rumble, young man, rumble. Hey, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna rumble.
This week on Fight Stuff.
British students square off in a round of fisticuffs while filling up the basement before heading to the attic. Pettis harnesses the power of Kal-El to punch his way out of a losing situation. With TMA Uber-mensch Wonderboy Thompson, and Jarrett shares his life-changing experience of pajama wrestling in front of friends and family at Pan's.
Go on, you fucking little bitch.
Here we go. Fight.
Fucking move, Dylan. Go on, you fucking little bitch.
Little bitch.
Oh,
okay, a little bit of hands,
Yeah, they're into that.
Poor technique. Oh,
yeah,
nice.
Whenever I see British people fight,
We're fighting.
I feel like it's very
They're in the clinch right now.
Oh yeah, little bit, but it's a dirty, old
dirty boxing.
clinch.
Yeah,
look at that, just pounding the low downstairs.
Oh, yeah! Top!
Trying to put a little water in the basement and then going up to the attic. I feel like it's appropriate to say when British people are
all right, double jab.
scrapping
Guy kind of knows what he's doing.
into that clinch.
Oh, clinch. Oh, but he ends up in bottom position.
I know, it's a nice back and forth.
Yeah,
Get up.
why are they breaking him up? Why? We're not in the ground.
What? Come on. That does feel very British also.
Yeah, no ground fighting at all.
If this was SoCal, that's where the fight would start.
Yeah, exactly. Be like, start throwing heel hooks. Look out.
Shake. They make them shake.
All right, you worked it out, boys.
There's a teacher here now. I feel like she's just like, back to work, back to school. I mean, okay, dude, I just think British UK fights, school fights seem so much more civilized. One, I think the official martial art is called fisticuffs.
Yes.
When you see them get ready to scrap, it's just so amazing to see them. They're fighting like old-timey boxers. Hands kind of down.
Right.
Lanky as fuck.
Yeah.
Just being like, you know.
Well, I liked it.
Irish.
What I saw the guy was doing was like, he was doubling up on his jab. I was like, ooh, you got some training.
Yeah.
Like someone got to him and was like, hey, son, listen, like, don't just go in there throwing all loopy punches. Like,
I feel like it's got to be part of the way they've socialized medicine in the UK. They probably have socialized bare knuckle boxing instruction from your uncle or something.
Exactly.
Your
well,
dad.
every country has their own sport. Like, it's like Brazil has jiu-jitsu, like Thailand has Muay Thai.
Right.
We used to have a little bit of boxing, wrestling. Kinda.
Yeah, UK has fisticuffs.
They have fisticuffs.
I mean, I don't think they call it that, but that's what it is.
Right.
There's no other.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's a very fun little schoolyard scrap. That's like, first of all, it's just funny when they talk in those fucking accents.
Yeah.
And they're like, fuck 'em up. Yeah, I like that they stopped the ground, no ground fighting.
That was very interesting to me. It was like, okay, we're not going in ground and pound territory. It's very like, no, he's on the ground. Like, how dare you?
Seriously, if you see LA like fights between teenagers from like cell phone videos, anything SoCal-y, and you can tell because they're shorts and their hats.
Yeah, exactly.
They're doing ground game. I think everybody here now might have a little bit of jiu-jitsu.
Well, I think everyone's seen the UFC to some degree.
Right.
And they're all just like either jiu-jitsu or ground and pound, and like at least understand the concept of recomposing guard.
Right.
And why you need to control your opponent's posture.
When I was going through to find fights for this one, I found this one that was just too long. It was a brawl in a parking lot that I assume was in SoCal. It looked very SoCal. And it was just like a 4-minute long video and just so insane and impossible to keep track of.
Yeah.
But like one of the things I noticed was after a guy gets knocked down, he's doing up kicks and the other kid like grabs the inside of the back of his short pants like it's a gi grip, like he's going to stack him.
Yeah.
And it was just like that instinct is something that you only get if you've done some gi classes.
Right. No, I mean, that would never occur to me. Like,
to just jam your whole like monkey paw grip right in the back of somebody's pants and be like, people think like, were you trying to pull his pants off? And you're like, no, I'm stacking his hips.
Exactly.
Need a hand.
No, I mean, because I do gi so rarely, I always feel weird grabbing people's lapels and sleeves and all that stuff, despite the fact that it's so applicable.
Yeah, I know.
But it's just like, because I'm so accustomed to it, I just look for knees, I look for legs, I look for the back of the tricep, and I'm like arm dragging
immediately.
It's got my arm drag's gotten really good because of that.
Do you guys do leg attacks when you're doing no-gi mostly? Do you do?
I personally don't because I don't have a lot of experience, but people will throw them up against me.
Yeah, I'm just curious because it's just the same thing. Whatever you're used to doing, that's where you get stuck a little bit sometimes.
Yeah,
like I'm starting to incorporate. Like you said, like I wouldn't do lapel. I always felt like, no, I want my jiu-jitsu to work no matter what. But then I'm like, I wear clothes all the time. If you're wearing a jacket, you got a lapel on. So I was preparing for gi tournaments. So I was doing a lot more gi stuff. But same thing then vice versa with no gi, which is a lot of sub-only leg attacks now. I just wouldn't do them because I came up, when I started jiu-jitsu, it was still like considered like dirty jiu-jitsu. It's like, that's almost cheating.
Yeah, it's dirty. It's high level. It's dirty, and we don't do it.
Yeah. Because I think they don't like the idea that it's a very democratizing move because it's, it's so vulnerable.
Oh,
and if you get good at them, you can smack them on like pretty well. It's just something you really got to deal with from like any guard that someone's trying to defend with. You can say fuck it and do a leg lock and really threaten someone.
I had somebody last Monday threaten me with like I was on my back. I was just playing basic guard, just working on dumb shit. Yeah. And he just like went for like a straight ankle lock and tried to like roll back with it. And I was like, get out of here with that trash.
Yeah.
Like
I will say too about this little UK scrap. The other thing about it that us here in the United States could really take a lesson in, I think, is the civilized quality of they work something out. The whole crowd
that's the part that I love.
Have a shake.
I love that.
And then the teacher isn't like screaming. You get the sense that this is like the teacher's like, all right, that's enough. Go back to life.
Not like you're suspended and you're suspended and you're filming, so you're suspended. It's like, no, this is, you guys had to work something out, figure it out. You guys figured it out?
Yeah.
Shake hands. Good sportsmanship.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good sportsmanship.
All right, go back to class. Yeah. See, I love that.
Speaking of good sportsmanship, I think that's a nice segue into This Week in Sporps.
Let's talk about This Week in Sports.
This Week in Sporps, well, the good sportsmanship came from the Pettis Wonderboy thing. I think we're going to talk about that longer, so we might as well just start with the other one.
Should we welcome people to the Fight Stuff podcast, by the way?
I mean, we're here.
Welcome to the Fight Stuff podcast. We've come up with a new tagline, by the way, what did we decide?
What are you talking about?
We're no longer the podcast for violence and violence enthusiasts.
Right. No, that's right. We are the combat podcast for everyone.
We're trying to bring everybody into the fold to appreciate combat sports in all of its glory.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm Zeke Rodriguez-Thomas, and with me, as always, is
Jarrett Sleeper.
Finally, we'll do this maybe one out of every 3 times. We'll actually have an official show open.
Introduce. I mean, I don't know. I guess that's a good thing to do. It's a nice little welcome.
Welcome
Here's
everybody.
The ritual at the beginning of the.
Absolutely. So let's talk about this weekend's UFC.
That's right.
Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
Yeah, well, okay, before we get into that, so we're going to talk about that. That's our main sport highlight we want to talk about. But as just sort of a curio highlight, there was a fight in Bellator, which also happened last week on Friday. Took place at the WinStar World Casino and Resort in Thackerville, Oklahoma.
World-famous Thackerville, famous for MMA showcases.
Yes, nothing feels more... like a delightful vacation concept to me than going to Oklahoma and losing all my money at slot machines. That sounds real. That sounds like a not dark place to be. So they had a great fight. These two guys, Anatoly Tokov and Gerald Harris. That was the one we wanted to talk about. What was fun about this fight? It was one of these very crazy ass barn burner comeback from behind sort of vibes in the first round. So it's a little bit unfair. We got excited about it because there was a clip on Instagram that Bellator shared that made it look like this thing that happened in the same round.
Right.
Basically, Gerald Harris knocked the fuck out of Anatoly Tokov. That's a little bit extreme because he was just... Well, he was on Queer Street, I think is the phrase they used to say. I don't know what
we say now.
Because that's queer like weird, the old statements. But you're just kind of wacky, you're out there. And it is one of those things. He follows up, he's hitting him on the ground where you're like, oh, this is over. This is going to end this.
You could have made a very compelling argument to me that fight should have been over the minute he landed that overhand right.
We can watch it again.
I don't remember what Gerald Harris, if he's regular or if he's southpaw.
In my memory, I remember it as a left, some kind of left
hook.
I
think you may have been right. But it was the left hook from hell that literally I feel like collapsed Tokov, and with Harris following up with those follow-up punches, I was like, man, this fight should be over.
Yeah.
Like, if it was stopped at that point, I wouldn't have been surprised, and I probably
Right.
would have been happy for everybody's brains.
Yeah, we're 90 seconds into the first round.
Lots of power.
Which also means a lot of energy and a lot of durability and ability to come back from it, maybe, which
True.
he does. Tokov scraps out of it, and it's pretty impressive. That argument about they should have stopped it, obviously, I'm with you. We're talking about CTE all the time here, but there's also this other side of what makes fighting amazing.
Right, which is when he gets up and he starts intelligently defending himself, which
Right.
is kind of like the term that everybody uses to decide when a fight is over.
Yes.
He gets up and proceeds to like move towards the cage and defend himself, which was just like, okay, all right, maybe I was wrong. Maybe he has a chance.
So they make their way out of that round, which I assume Tokov had to have lost. I mean, that's an amazing, that typically when someone gets knocked out that hard, sometimes that'll even be like a 7-10 round. Or
Ooh, have you ever seen a
8-10
I've seen a 10-8 round.
Yeah.
I've never seen a 10-7
No,
yet.
8-10-8 round.
Without them calling the fight, being like, this guy is
right.
an amateur, get him out of here.
Yeah, I got the numbers messed up in my head. But he comes back middle of the second round. Tokov, the one who was practically knocked out, manages to sink a deep guillotine. That's it. Gets the tap. About 47 seconds left in the round. No, at the 47-second round. So fast fight, sharp,
Very fast fight.
it's exciting.
It was super exciting. And I remember I was looking at this clip and I was like, oh man, who are these guys? And I saw Gerald Harris and I was like, wait, Gerald Harris is still fighting. That's awesome. UFC veteran Gerald Harris. I remember him from, I want to say, The Ultimate Fighter or some of the early cards like pre-UFC 100. I mean, I unfortunately saw him lost like a handful of times, but I was just, remarked. I was amazed that he was still fighting. And, it actually compelled me to like look up to see how old he is. And he's 39. And I guess he retired right after this fight for the second time. But yeah, I was just like, oh, man.
I think for people who don't watch fighting that much, who might listen to this, it's just an amazing thing to see. I was thinking about this because we focus so much lately on like the self-destructive aspect, how dangerous and strange this sport is. Part of what's inspiring about that is the choice to do that, is this sacrificial thing, this thing that you've prepared yourself, and we're doing this on purpose. There's something amazing about that. But the other side of it too is this is one of those most inspiring things that happens in fight sports, where a guy who, for all that is right in the world, should be done with this fight. No
At one
fucking
point,
chance.
he said he was done.
Yeah, yeah. And they're still fighting.
Yeah.
And they come back within the fight. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah. So there you go. That was the Bellator clip that Jarrett sent to me from Instagram that definitely piqued both of our interests. And, upon further inspection, still relatively interesting.
Yeah, even if it didn't happen in the same
round,
whatever.
God.
All right, but the other one, the big one, Pettis knocking out Wonderboy. An amazing fight. Just one of those, God, I love seeing those fucking karate guys fight.
We always talk about how styles make fights. And seeing Pettis' new style, that he's just hands up, head down, I am moving forward. He's so much more exciting.
Totally.
And combine that with Wonderboy's hard style karate, with like the blading out and the front kick, using that as the side kick, using that as a jab or a teep. Like,
I'm so impressed by that. I'm just impressed by the balance. When people who don't know how to fight well or aren't very good at kickboxing, they'll do this bounce that you see those guys do. And it's terrible. You're not moving. You're moving up and down. You're not really balanced out. It gives people a good chance to really destabilize you. The bounce is useless. A lot of times it like takes your energy from your punch. You don't know how to sit on your punches yet. So any energy that you would be pushing horizontally kind of bleeds out north and south, and you just don't feel very grounded.
Sure, and also you're not getting off the center line.
Yes, exactly.
You're not getting off the train tracks.
But then these guys who know how to do it, like Wonderboy, it's so impressive to me, the balance and power they have everywhere. Those side kicks, he's almost never caught doing that thing that a lot of times happens with guys who throw side kicks. They land the side kick, but they almost push themselves off. When they try to extend the kick, they can't really. They destabilize themselves and move backwards. Guys who know how to throw those spinning kicks or those nice side kicks like that, never happens. It just digs into the ground behind them the same way it would with a punch. The energy doesn't dissipate. It all goes forward. It's so beautiful. And on top of that, Thompson, because I think we all dream of karate and kung fu like being real.
Well, if you grew up in the 80s, then yes, yeah, because that was like, karate was the thing.
When I was looking, another viral clip I considered using this week, but I just didn't, was a challenge match that happened with a local kung fu instructor versus Nam Phan.
Ooh, I saw that.
Did you watch that shit?
I watched it on Instagram. I didn't watch the full fight.
I still love a fucking dojo storm. I love a style versus style challenge match, especially. I don't know why.
Do you know the story behind it? Like,
I don't know a ton. I just from reading some of it. The other thing that's funny is there's like 17 videos of it, and like they all link to each other. Like I went to this one that was the official upload, and then some of the comments is like, I like mine in 4K better. And I went to that one, and then that was saying this is the official one. Link back to it. And there's like a 30-minute long version of like before and after. It's so funny. But long story short, it just sounds like a typical real life dojo storm situation. A local kung fu instructor.
Would you explain what a dojo storm situation is for some of our newer fight fan enthusiasts?
What is a dojo storm?
Yeah.
A dojo storm is something that doesn't happen that much these days, but was a thing. I think it was a common thing in like the 60s and 70s when martial arts were more of a newish thing and more clannish and more hard style across the board. McDojos didn't really exist
exactly
for real. Basically what it was is you and a bunch of people from your dojo, which is the Japanese word for school, basically for your gym, you would go to a local school or a school the town over and all show up in force, which is not a friendly thing to do, and be like, hey, we just want to check out your school. We wanted to see if you guys wanted to train, maybe spar a few rounds together. And it's basically a challenge from one dojo to another, and you go to test your shit out and maybe fuck other people up, maybe get fucked up. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal if you get dojo stormed, then you got to pick senior students and stuff to green light people in a certain way. Well, green lighting isn't a subset, just like smokers would be a subset too. Smoker is not a dojo storm because it's announced. A smoker is a non-professional, non-sanctioned day of fights,
day of sparring fighting.
Yeah, where you're having a card, you're announcing this people, usually from other gyms, will come and fight each other. It's more of a kickboxing and boxing thing.
Yeah, it definitely is, and it's a lot more. At least the culture of it is a lot more friendly in my experience, where it's kind of like, hey, we're all relatively unexperienced, and we don't want to fuck up our records before we start fighting on the official amateur circuit or definitely on the professional circuit. So let's get some ring experience where we actually, some of them will use shin guards. Like if it's kickboxing, they'll have shin guards, headgear, things like that, just to try to like log rounds and actually have someone who's throwing with bad intention in front of you.
Exactly. It's a way to up the ante and sort of up the energy as you approach an actual fight, to get used to that, running the rounds the same way, that kind of thing. A dojo storm is unannounced. I mean, it's an act of aggression.
It definitely is. It's like a gang fight.
Hardcore act. It's very Cobra Kai shit to do. So this is somewhere in a hybrid, because I think they were going back and forth or something like that. But it's long story short.
By the way, we're going to leave this helicopter in. I've had enough. We're going to fight through.
This helicopter gets to stay.
Yeah.
Even as somebody who started in traditional martial arts, there's something I love, because I feel like I'm a reformed traditional martial artist who still retains some of my appreciation, respect, and even techniques from traditional martial arts.
Yeah, that stuff doesn't go away.
Yeah, and I just fire tested them, and I amended them and adjusted to the requirements of real fighting by adding certain grappling things in and focusing on some of that. And still, I'll do some of my Wing Chun shit when I want to. But to me, I think there's something still beautiful and exciting about the moment of enlightenment when somebody who really doesn't believe in this sport shit, who doesn't believe in this MMA shit, gets to find out what it's about.
Yeah.
And so you have this guy who was an instructor of a local kung fu academy, I guess, challenged Nam Phan, who's a UFC veteran, very good fighter. It should be noted that Nam Phan fought at 135. He's like 5'6". He's not a big guy.
Oh, gotcha.
And there's a huge size disadvantage with this man who's probably a little older than him, it looks like. But
so we'll guess that he fought at 135, but probably walked around 150-ish.
Yeah, especially now. I don't think is he actively fighting? I don't think he's actively. I don't know. But anyway, that's a fun video, and I don't know how we got on the topic of dojo storms. But long story short is the kung fu guy learns. And he doesn't look like a scrub.
No.
But he does refuse to wear gloves.
Yep.
And he sets the rules, no grappling. And like there's a little of dirty clinching that always happens in those fights. But you know, they keep it pretty much standing. Kicks are thrown, but predominantly Nam Phan just used some basic boxing stuff. And long story short, what winds up getting TKO'd pretty hard, gets back up in what would be a 10 or so count. He wants to keep going.
He wants to keep going, but he shouldn't.
Real bad, you know. Head hitting the canvas, knockout. And apparently, in the aftermath of it, that guy still wanted to. He thought it was just because he got tired.
Oh yeah.
He was like, no, it was because you were better. They did it in rounds too. He survives the first round. Goes back and forth. He catches Nam Phan a couple times. It's not like he can't do nothing. But you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's funny. You know, whenever I get tired, I lose time. You know, like. Randomly.
Yeah, whenever I get tired, I think, this isn't fighting anymore. This doesn't count.
Yeah.
And obviously...
My legs buckle.
Obviously, it's not that you're better than me, you know?
You know, I feel
being tired has nothing to do with martial arts, of course, so...
I feel like that was Connor's excuse when he got choked out.
Khabib'ed?
Yeah, no, not when he got Khabib'd, when he got Diaz'ed.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just like, I got inefficient. And I was like, no, dude, you got caught with 3 punches and then shot for a double leg.
Yeah,
and
that's
got
fighting, bro.
Choked the fuck out.
You got fucking gassed out. Everybody, they all say that. I mean, as a grappler, I know I'm speaking from a biased perspective.
Yeah.
But all strikers who think fighting should only be striking or whatever, and that's only who have claustrophobia and just don't want to learn that grimy grappling stuff, they'll all be like that. It's not really real fighting, you know?
Yeah.
Back to the pancreation stuff we were talking about. This thing. It's just so odd. I don't know. Wrestling is like something that jocks and farmers do or something like that. They don't think it's real, but it's a beautiful art if you ask me.
Absolutely.
And sorry to it's because it feels so inelegant to them. You're such a like wet blanket. It's such a kill you over time thing sometimes. Sometimes you just snap it on, but it is one of those things that that's the whole Gracie metaphor they used to use. You know, they drag you into deep waters and let you get tired.
Yeah, go ahead. Just get tired. It's fine. I got you, boo.
Very
Don't
octopus.
worry.
Very sharky.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know how we got on that, but this British fight was good. Oh no, we're not even talking about that. I was looking for fights and I watched that Dojo Storm thing. Oh, yeah. Karate guys. Thompson, to me, in my mind, Thompson was also one of the reasons I love Thompson is he just feels like a Napoleon Dynamite character a little bit to me.
How so?
Like he would be, because to me, he is like the golden Uber-mensch vision of redneck karate guy. He's very Germanic looking. He's very he's good looking. He's tall. But it's that
athletic.
lanky. It's like that thing that you'd be like, oh, you gotta watch out for Todd.
Yeah,
he does that karate, and you'd be like, that Bean Paul. You know what I mean? You'd be like, I don't think so, but it's like, no, Todd breaks boards, dude. You know, he just has this quality to him that is like,
to me, he looks like he's gonna come into my house and take me away and put me like in an oven. Like, I mean, he looks,
yeah, for sure.
He's like definitely
that.
like Nazi-ish vibes about him.
But that is what
without his personality.
That is where the Uber-mensch went. That's what happened. That's the real truth of the Uber-mensch is they just live in fucking
round up my friends,
dude.
Round up all the people I care about.
They live in Argentina or they live in mall dojos. So that's what happens. But there's just something so funny about it because he just looks like this skinny. He's a good-looking guy too.
Yeah.
But he's good looking in that way that would be like he'd be the hottest guy in a redneck town. You know what I mean?
Okay, I mean, we're definitely approaching this two different ways. But he would definitely be the hot guy in Napoleon Dynamite. Yeah.
That like lanky, like, you know, nice guy too. I don't think there's anything.
No, he's a nice dude.
I don't know about his religion, but I could just picture him being like, well, he's this Christian, very like sweet boy who just does karate. He just
happens to be really good at karate.
Has a local dojo, yeah, and he like. When somebody gets a little bit rough at the church cookout, it's like,
oh, don't worry, Wonderboy will.
Like, excuse me, ma'am, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. He just seems like that to me. I think the other thing I like about the TMA thing with him is like, I imagine being one of his child students who like learns katas and does dojos and stuff, and that he's like the best version of a TMA where you're like, my karate teacher's so good at fighting. He could beat you up, and the Cobra Kai UFC MMA guys would be like, yeah, right, he does that stupid karate. But then it's like, no, it's true. Like
what's TMA
Machida,
by the way?
Traditional martial arts.
Oh wow.
You know, like Lyoto Machida is like that too. I love that. I just love that there's like these good.
I just love that
clean-
theard a term to incorporate.
Oh, you never heard TMA?
I've never heard TMA.
Traditional martial arts?
No. Yeah.
It's a way to just like blanket in. It's a McDojo sort of.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what I took growing
Language.
up at McDojo. Yeah, absolutely.
Because also I think there's a lot of value in katas and forms and all of the wonderful ritual of
100%. I still have katas burned into my brain that I can't let go of.
I wish I did. I never did katas long enough. I honestly, when I did some taekwondo when I was a kid and stuff like that, I just could never remember katas. So I was always like never advancing, never getting better at fucking
I think
karate.
my first medal I ever won in a karate tournament was for a kata.
That rules. I
Yeah.
think that rules. I wish I did. I wish I knew it now, because I think when you see like Thompson and Machida, that balance and control and power and ability to do that, part of that comes from katas doing it. Shane Faison has this joke, the guy who does fight tips.
Yeah,
He's a cool guy. We met him once a long time ago.
Yeah,
I think
over
we
the
did
YouTube space a long time ago.
But he has this joke about sidekicks don't work. He puts up posts of fights where people are very effectively using sidekicks and does hashtag sidekicks don't work. I think it's like a little bit like Vinny Magalhães' leglocks don't work thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Vinny Magalhães is just very good at surviving leg locks, and that's an old jiu-jitsu kind of mindset of like leg locks don't fucking work. I'm not gonna tap to a foot lock. Get out of here.
Yeah, get out of here with that trash.
Which, speaking of, that is not a bad segue into my experience this past weekend.
Did we actually talk about what happened? I don't think we've talked about what happened
at the tournament.
With Pettis.
Oh, we fucking didn't.
So back and forth battle.
Jesus, we're 20, whatever.
Yeah, great. So back and forth battle. Wonderboy, Pettis. I would argue that Wonderboy is using his length, his reach advantage, and his TMA.
His TMA, baby. Do you know what I'm saying? It looks like he could be wearing like a wife beater and some like really long shorts, and he just puts a cigarette on the ground. And then comes out,
but
and
I
is
just
like,
see him
let's
wearing.
fight.
I see him wearing a gi with the sleeves cut off. And
oh yeah, for sure, that too.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. It's like he's in that world,
I'm surprised he doesn't walk to the octagon with
a fucking headband,
Exactly.
Like completely.
So he's utilizing his style and he's busting up Pettis pretty well. Like, I would say he's getting the better of the exchanges, but over time, Pettis is figuring out distance and starts landing some straight rights down the middle. And then in the second round...
Yeah, but over that whole fight, it does look real bad for Pettis. Thompson seems to be clipping him over and over again. Pettis is bleeding. There's a really... I also love, speaking of just more of this, like, the best parts of fighting to me, Pettis throws a big, wild, spinning hook kick that's a very TKO'd-ish kick, and... slips. He falls like pretty solidly, which makes me feel good because even high level guys slip on those fights, those attempts sometimes. Anyway,
anytime anybody throws a wheel kick or a spinning shit, I'm always just like,
ooh,
this could get good.
And they like kind of laugh and high five each other.
Yeah,
a
they're
little
like,
bit.
good job, bro. Like,
I just love that it's like these two cool guys like, let's have a scrap. Let's come on out and do this, and they slap hands nice to the beat. I just love that energy.
Yeah,
not that we're gonna fight each other any less hard, but it's just nice.
This is fun. We're putting on a
together.
show.
But anyway, so Pettis is looking beat up.
Yeah.
Little do all of us at home realize this whole time he's just kind of clocking what Thompson does, looking for that little opening.
Managing distance, trying to figure it out. And then in the last 10 seconds, you hear the clapper go off for the last 10 seconds of the round, in the second round, and Wonderboy lands another sidekick, a front sidekick that he's been utilizing for to great effect, and it bounces Pettis off the cage, lands a Superman punch that puts Wonderboy out on his feet.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's a great example of a few things. One, I think that you can see about 2 minutes or so early into that round. I think like 2:20 into that round, you see Pettis clip Wonderboy a little bit down the middle with a very similar timing. It's not bounced off the thing, but it is sort of like after one of his side kicks and he comes right down the middle. He times it out and he goes, okay, I think that's where Pettis gets the idea. I can get in this
That's exactly
zone.
where he does, yeah.
And then you see him bounce off that cage, and I think it's a really good example of something we've talked about before and that I think about a lot these days in my sparring and jiu-jitsu even, about tempo and pace and where you can find a way to break up the timing of your opponent and what they're trying to set up. When they think they're resetting is when you're attacking. We saw a very similar distance crossing switchy footwork thing from Masvidal last week. He uses the moment of bouncing off the cage, which at first looks like he's just using the momentum of the cage, and that's when you realize, no, he's switched his stance, and that stance switch that you get from a Superman punch, works very similar to Masvidal's left hook last week,
Right.
where it very sneakily crosses this distance. Your eyes are paying attention up top because that's where you've been focused, so you don't realize his feet have switched, which puts that foot, its ability to step forward about 3 feet further forward than you expect it to be. And Thompson, who's such a master at range, to keep your hands down
He's
like that.
so good. And
Yeah.
then he keeps his hands down at range.
Yes.
But, I mean, yeah, he manages distance so well the entire fight, except for this one instance when he's resetting.
And it's perfect because in that reset, he thinks, I'm a good distance. I have already managed to knock Pettis around, and he's been at this distance the whole time. Pettis uses this moment of the strange little jukey distance cover that happens with a cage when he's bouncing off it to just add 2. And damn, he comes right down the pie with a clean Superman. And then this is the third thing I'll mention that seems like an interesting thing to examine about this particular knockout.
Right. As we looked at this, Jarrett brought up a very interesting point about neck position, head position, torsion that on Wonderboy.
Well, a knockout happens for a variety of reasons, but the flash knockouts that you see very quickly happen is basically an overloading of your nervous system in your spine. So when people say he got hit on the button or something like that, usually it's the point of the chin or the corner of your jaw especially. And what it is it's creating this snappy, sudden motion in your neck that just shuts your system down. It sort of overloads. And that would be an interesting thing to talk about why knockouts happen specifically. I'd like to deep dive into that.
Yeah.
Just for my own interest, because I'm not completely clear on it. I've always just been like, your system overloads, it's no good, you turn off. Well,
Yep. Control-Alt-Delete.
yeah, I know like how it happens, like in terms of the affect, what sort of parameters seem to set up a situation in which it'll happen.
Yeah.
And usually it's if your neck's kind of loose. They always say the hardest punch is the one you don't see coming because you're not braced for it and your neck just whiplashes. And the whiplash is what knocks you out. What happens if you are squared up towards somebody and you can absorb a punch solidly while you're squared up, your chin is 90 degrees off from your shoulders, and you can really lock down and squeeze up your traps, you have a much better chance of surviving that shot than if you're loose and already in an extreme position where your neck's basically cranked. A danger of those super sideways bladed stances, anybody who's taken a boxing class or a kickboxing class that has nothing to do with grappling, they will set your stance very sideways. We call it blading because you're presenting a smaller target to your opponent is a lot of the idea. You move your vitals further away from shots, hypothetically, and it makes it harder for somebody to hit your dangerous areas and easier for you to get range on someone else. In MMA, we tend to see more squared up stances, mostly because of grappling, because it's harder to defend a takedown horizontally.
When you're bladed out. Yeah, absolutely. But also you can threaten grappling from that position a lot more effectively.
Right. Absolutely, because humans move very poorly laterally, but we move really well forwards and backwards. So when you want to shoot a double on somebody or catch an angle, you're always trying to put yourself moving powerfully forward and attacking them. That when they say cut a corner, you're trying to force them into their horizontal movement, which they're bad at. So the other thing about it is if you're Thai boxing or doing some sort of hard kickboxing style, being super bladed leaves that front leg rather, a lot more vulnerable to getting slammed around by front leg kicks to the back of it, which can
you're super
destabilize
vulnerable.
you.
Absolutely.
So,
and which ultimately slows you down as you're pursuing your opponent, but also takes away your power as well if you're trying to throw punches.
Thompson, of course, is used to this. He works at a very high level, and people do this, but these are risks you run. And it was interesting to see this Superman punch by being so bladed to his left with his right hand forward, his right leg forward, but still looking over his right shoulder. He puts his neck in a very extremely torqued position to start with.
Yeah.
If Pettis had hit him with a left hook, that might not have been a knockout because you have so much distance to travel and absorb. It'll turn your chin back a way that's healthier for it to go. You can kind of roll with it, tuck your shoulder up. But Pettis hits him with a really nice right hook that comes in perfectly at a bad angle for him, going against the torsion, adding to the problem, and it shuts him off real quick.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite things about the Superman punch, especially being a relatively short person, is that I'm able to cover distance. Yeah. And it seemed like Pettis was running into that for most of that fight, is that he was having a lot of problems with distance, and occasionally he would make contact, but that extra 3 feet is just so critical in him landing that punch and also landing it with enough force. Also adding into the fact the torque that was already on Wonderboy's neck lights out, and then his follow-up punches were just academic at that point.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's interesting to see that, too. I think that's a good thing, just as a little sidebar for people who don't really watch fight sports and might not understand the violence of it, about the consensual nature of these professional fighters, that it's interesting to see Pettis follow up and hit him so hard 2 more times on the way down, and there's no ill will. It's just what they do. He wouldn't expect any different from Wonderboy.
I have to keep fighting until the ref stops the fight.
Right. That's my job. That's what you guys expect of me. That's what, of each other.
You would do the same to me.
Right.
Exactly.
But he gets him off there. He's fine. And after the fight, oh, God, they do just like one of my favorite things in martial arts.
Yeah.
Where Pettis, obviously he's in the moment and you see he's, triumph of, you got, motherfucker, and me, and blah, blah. But it's not towards Thompson.
No. It's not directed at him at all. Yeah, it's like 30 seconds of celebration, and then he's immediately on his knees checking on him.
P.S. In that celebration, licking blood off himself. To be
fair,
that,
if you're
dude.
watching this clip, there is some blood licking.
No, but I love that. I love the motherfucker, licking blood off me, blah, blah. Right into, oh my God, are you okay?
Shit, is he okay?
Yeah. Going over, checking on him, kneeling before him, getting up and bowing respectfully to his, that is just, that's to me the beauty and strangeness of fighting in a nutshell.
Exactly. I think that's why we love this sport, where you're just like, fuck, like Thompson is still down for 30, 40 seconds. He's not up on a stool yet.
I'm going to throw spinning shit and slip. We're going to laugh about it. High five in the ring. We're going to go back to trying to kick each other's asses. I'm going to knock you out viciously. I'm going to lick blood off my gloves. And then we'll be like, oh, are you okay? It's amazing. And then you see this moment that you pointed out.
So in the replay, the commentators are talking over this fight. You can watch it on ESPN Plus, not an official sponsor of the podcast yet. But you can see him, you can see Pettis walk towards him to shake his hand, and you see Wonderboy sitting on the stool, look up, recognize Pettis, and as Pettis is thanking him, he has this dumb look on his face like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Fuck.
What happened? He goes, fuck. And he's just like, ugh, like that.
Like
it's really
like,
funny.
Damn it.
Like kind of high five, kind of shaking hands, like, damn. Yeah, it's such a cool vibe of like, what? Dang, dude.
You knocked me out? Dang it.
Which is, I think, adds more to just like this sweet boy redneck karate genius vision that I have of him. I'm like, what happened?
We should have somebody commission some fan art of like redneck country Stephen Thompson.
Dang. Okay.
Dang.
Well,
all right.
one.
Well,
good, one,
good fight then. All right. Like, his voice is just getting softer and
oh, gosh dang it.
That's too bad. I don't swear anyways.
Oh yeah, I'm not one for swear words much.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Well,
stuff.
anyways, that was our very long-winded This Week in Sporps and Viral Clips of the Week, which, by the way, all of them could have been Viral Clips of the Week. I encourage you to check them all out.
There's a lot of fun stuff happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are 3 good clips to definitely check out. But in this segment of the show, normally we do a show and tell where I usually bring something to Jarrett, or Jarrett brings something to me, and we're going to break format a little bit. It's still a show and tell.
I think it's nice because we're just going to go straight down. We're just going to be like, oh, this is show and tell. I was kind of trying to partition it off, and the grab. It's show and tell.
No, it's definitely show and tell because I want to know more about your experience this weekend at Pan's.
Yes.
What? Tell me about your experience. So just for everybody, let's zoom out a little bit because I know we are very inside baseball about grappling, and jiu-jitsu.
In the world of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is a grappling art not unlike judo or wrestling, the difference being from wrestling that the goal is not to pin your opponent, but to get them to tap out. So the focus is on joint locks or submission attempts that are chokes. Yeah. And also, there are 2 variations of jiu-jitsu. There's gi and there's no gi. And a gi is those funny pajamas you see people do karate or judo in.
With the belts of different colors.
Exactly. And in judo and also in some other grappling arts like sambo or in, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you use that gi a lot. Sometimes we'll call it lapels. Basically, you're allowed to grab the gi any way you want to. There's a couple of restrictions, but the basic idea is you can use the gi gripping the pants and the cloth as grips for whatever you want. You use them to try to choke people with for leverage, or leverage to control them, or throw them.
And that differs from no gi or no gi jiu-jitsu or submission wrestling in that you don't have those available to you.
Yeah.
So all your handles become body parts as opposed to as opposed to shorts or compression pants or whatever you're wearing. So those are unavailable to you.
Yeah, so it just changes up usually the pace a little bit. No-gi tends to be a little bit faster. Gi tends to be a little bit more technical and heavy and sticky.
I would say like slow and deliberate are the words that I always use to describe.
For sure.
At least my
For sure, slower and more deliberate. At competition level, though, it does still follow that format. So I did a competition this weekend that is, I think it's pretty widely accepted to be the second largest competition of the year. Pan's is a tournament run by the IBJJF, which I think is the International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation.
Yes.
It's a Brazilian organization, and it's largely it's the gold standard, biggest competitive federation for amateur jiu-jitsu. And I think they have their first pro tournaments that have been starting too, where people do get some money. I think there's gonna be some money for black belt level at Worlds this year and stuff like that.
Well, that's a nice change of pace.
It's a nice thing that they're starting to do. They definitely are doing well as a business. Everybody pays to enter. But
not only do they pay to enter, but you pay for a membership to the federation.
That's correct. That makes you officially ranked within the world of Brazilian. It's there's a lot that's good about it. And overall, I think it's a wonderful part of the sport. Jiu-jitsu is still one of those sports, arts, martial arts, whatever, that your rank means something, that you can kind of across the board assume it means something to a certain degree.
Sure.
It's watering down a little bit more as things grow, but
that happens with any sport.
With any sport. And one of the things that keeps it honest are these competitions, that it's harder to rank up in jiu-jitsu if you don't compete,
right.
I would say. And also, in some ways, it's harder to rank up, they could say, if you do, because, they say the better you are at jiu-jitsu, the harder it is to gain rank, because they give you rank a little bit based on your personal level of achievement. And they're like, if you have more potential or more natural ability, they're going to expect more from you to advance to the next level.
Right. And when you say rank, we're talking about belts, correct?
Belt ranks, yes. There's only 5 ranks in jiu-jitsu. It goes, there's some children's ranks that don't officially count, and I don't remember those. That involves like orange and green and something yellow.
Yeah.
But the official belts are white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt.
Right.
And so there's only those 5, and they all mean a lot. They're hard to get, takes a long time to do. And unlike other martial arts where you might train for a few months or a few weeks, and then they'll be like, here, you got your
it's belt promotion time, McDojo.
Yeah, it's very hard to get them. And if you get a blue belt, typically it means you have a real fighting competency in this sport.
You have a fundamental understanding of this sport in general.
Yeah. And that a fundamental understanding of jiu-jitsu makes you a good fighter compared to, I would say, 90% of the civilian population.
Right.
That you have some real tools and real ability to fight against full badass resistance and overcome potentially with ease.
Sure. Now, also keep in mind too, there's also this sickness that people get the minute they get their blue belt. They magically disappear from the sport.
That's a common joke in jiu-jitsu, is that it's the blue belt that you never see again. You get the blue belt and it makes sense. It's just so hard to get it. It weirdly means like almost like what a black belt means in other arts. Sometimes you wait years. I think I got my blue belt in 3 years. I think I got a blue belt. And then I think I remained a blue belt for about 9 or 10 more years after that. Oh man, I don't know. The numbers never add up, because I feel like I've only done jiu-jitsu for like 12 years on and off, which is still like a long time to be where I'm at.
Sure.
But to like not be a black belt. But
you also weren't training 3 to 5 days a week.
Yeah, and also
consistently.
I went years in there that I did like a year at least. I didn't train. Anyway, jiu-jitsu is like this lifelong journey. So I got a brown belt about a year ago, and I got a purple belt about 2 years ago, and that's another common thing.
This is all within the gi with gi jiu-jitsu.
Yes, that blue and purple tend to be the hardest belts in terms of time it takes to get them, and then it's common, I guess, a lot that people will go suddenly like purple, brown, black, because the difference in ability and stuff, it just becomes so much more nuanced, and there's not a lot that's different in terms of fight, at least in the olden days. It's starting to tier out more again. But if you're a purple belt, a lot of purple belts I think can roll competitively with black belts even.
Sure.
That's all, because then among the belts, there's like, are you a competitive brown or black belt, or are you just a entry level or somebody who trains? And then among that, the athletes, this is part of our conversation last week about fighters versus just people who have the rank and do the thing.
Yeah.
There's just something different about it. And so included with that is the different rule sets of different sports. IBJJF is a sport fighting. It's not, there are certain jiu-jitsu tournaments that are sub only or geared towards submission, and so they'll score them differently. IBJJF are big tournaments. They got to crank a lot of people through there, and they're usually single elimination tournament style things where you go out there, and a common thing that happens is whoever gets the takedown wins. If you get the takedown, you get those 2 points, you're on top. If you're experienced at jiu-jitsu, you can stall. You can
maintain position.
Yes.
Stalling is definitely a thing in these tournaments.
The rule sets don't encourage wild, super artistic, submission-heavy attempts, so trying to end your fight with your opponent. Because to attempt submissions, you tend to have to open up your game a little bit.
You have
which
to give
puts
something
you,
to get something
yes.
when it comes to that.
So it might not be the most exciting thing to watch all the time for people who don't know what they're watching. But I love it, and it's something that I have been meaning to do more. And I haven't competed since last year when I competed at Pan's at Purple Belt, which is a belt lower. I'm in the Masters division, which means over the age of 30.
Wow.
And they
See,
tier
now
out.
that part trips me out, man.
I know, right? Well, by the time you're
like,
over 30, they're like, well, you're going to be a different kind of athlete now, so you're old.
yeah,
Crazy.
you're really old. I mean,
yeah. They tier that out. I think Masters, there's 1 through 5 or 6, I think, or something like that.
Yeah. Did they even go seniors on top of that just to really point out the fact that you're old as shit?
Maybe they do, but I think they just call them different tiers of Master. There are still people who are over 30 who still compete at the adult levels.
Yeah, I think in the last tournament I did, technically I was in the Masters division, and there was nobody there, so I was just like, all right, adult, I don't care.
Yeah.
But, that was back in 2012. So, that was the last time I did a jiu-jitsu tournament.
Well, so I think a little before that was the last time I had competed, and then however many years went by, and I competed last year at Purple Belt 2 times, one in a more regional tournament, which went really well. I got gold, but there was only 1 fight. That happens a lot at regional tournaments. You get a medal, but you have 1 fight. And then I competed at Pan's. I had 3 fights. I won 2, and I lost 1 on points. And I won 1 by submission, 1 by points, and then I lost 1 on points and ended up getting a bronze medal. And then this year, I went out there, and I was pumped. I hadn't done it in a while. I had a lot of anxiety. It was just a lot of a journey, and it was just an exciting thing to do again. I ended up, spoiler alert at the beginning, I won 1 fight really well. I was very dominant on points, and then I also got a submission my first fight, and I felt good about that.
How'd you finish the fight?
Straight choke from the back. I just took the back and then ended up. People thought, because you couldn't see it, and I had a sort of cross collar choke to go into it, but I switched to a straight choke. Mm-hmm. And then my second fight, I lost on points. I messed up a little bit on the takedown, but I felt good about it because I was never in danger of a submission. I felt I was really active, and I was attacking submissions a lot, which is part of that leglocks don't work joke. I was going for, I think, 2 different toe hold attempts, a decent armbar attempt, and 2 knee bar attempts.
Well, you know what? Good for you, man, because you knew you were going to lose anyways based on what I feel is a shitty point system.
It just is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
I made a mistake in the takedowns. I watched the tape back, and I was indecisive in the moment. I remember being like, maybe I could Kimura trap, but maybe I should go for the back. By that time, we were on the ground, ended up in half guard. And then I don't have the greatest half guard in the world, so he passed to side control. And I didn't feel bad there, but he gets points for that pass. He moved to knee on belly and was doing a good job hopping to knee on belly and back down. That's more points. 2 points for that. And so they racked up. It ended up being 7-0, I think, is what we ended at.
Yeah.
There was some advantage. I think I had an advantage for this some armbar attempt. But either way, I felt good. I was tired too. He had a bye, which happens in these tournaments sometimes. A bye is, when somebody... just the numbers work out that you have to do a round before everyone else.
So just to back up though, what weight class were you officially at with the gi?
I fought at 181.5. It's middleweight, but they weigh you with the gi on.
Right.
So a gi is made of heavy canvas. It's about 4 pounds by itself. I typically walk around at about 186, 187 sort of these days. So that means I needed to cut a solid 10 pounds. And you can cut weight in all different ways. Some people just do water cuts and things like that. I did it over about 3 weeks. It was a little tough. I mean, for me, the caloric deficit pretty consistently for a few weeks and then training hard. And I was getting very tired, leaned out a lot for it though, and dehydrated. Not too much. I was still just drinking water.
Yeah, I mean, the water cut is always crazy during a same day weigh-in.
Yeah.
I didn't have a good experience doing it in my time. So
it's not fun. I don't advise people to do it. A lot of weight cutting, a lot of attitudes have changed about weight cutting, especially at like children's levels, at high school levels,
yeah.
and high school. I mean, my sister, I was talking to her on the way to the tournament. She's like, "Did you have to cut weight for this?" And I forgot that like my sister wrestled when she was in high school.
I feel like you told me this
know, it's so
recently, and
weird.
that's knowing Samantha that
I know.
it doesn't.
And she said that she started and they put her at 118, and then she was down to like 104. You know,
What?
they had her fighting at 104. I think they were trying to kill her. They're trying to get her off the team, I think. But
I mean, she's relatively tall too.
yeah, she's tall. She's like 5'10" or something. I think she's my height. So that's a lot. Maybe she's 5'8", but that's a lot to put your body through for anyone, especially if you're a kid who's growing. It's just really unhealthy.
Yeah.
But so, I don't know. It was just an interesting experience going into it. I was having a lot of anxiety, and it brought up a lot of stuff for me, basically about, because it's just a hobby, right? I don't.
Sure. I mean, what
is there to
part of it
risk?
was anxiety like inducing? What part of it was it? Just the fact that you were back in competition after all these
Yeah,
years?
it's this idea of, what does this mean? I have this rank. I need a. What if I'm a fake? What if I'm a fraud? What if I choke? There's a somatic fear of just being in front of people and getting beaten up. That's different than other kinds of performance. It's like a mix of public speaking anxiety mixed with this very primal fear of getting killed.
and ego. Like, let's
And
not
then
forget
ego.
that. Like,
And then
that's-
ego.
Yeah.
Am I? I don't know, that you want to. That you present yourself a certain way, or you want to believe yourself in a certain way, that you're this badass on some level or have some kinds of abilities, and other people get that sense. And it can be really hard. And in the past, I've had so much anxiety where I just didn't want anyone to come to the tournaments even, because I just didn't want to, I don't know. I'm like, I do this weird thing. We do this weird hobby where you're fighting people for fun and not punching each other, but still going
But
at
you're
it.
going for it. Like,
Yeah, and you go disappear. And for me, my closest loved ones, my girlfriend and my roommate who see me all the time, who have no connection to this sport or practice, have no sense of what it is. I'm like, I just disappear most nights of the week and
for hours on end.
come back sweaty and talk about it. But there's no sense of like, what's he doing there? And this was the first tournament that I had them. They came. So my roommate and who's also one of my best pals, but then Allie, my girlfriend, also came, which adds this other thing. And I just will say, okay, so in anticipating, I guess this is the part I wanted to talk about the most about leading into this, was like anticipating going out and do this funny little hobby. I was getting really scared, and a lot of demons came up about being afraid of failing, and I realized that it wasn't actually failing that I was afraid of. It was, I had this epiphany that I think most of my life I don't try my hardest, because if I try my hardest and then fail, that sounds like too scary a thing to face.
It means you're not good enough.
Right. That's quote unquote what it would mean.
Right.
And so it's so much easier to always hold something in reserve, never go for something, never put yourself in the vulnerable position of saying, I really fucking want this. I'm going to try my hardest for it, because what if you don't get it?
Yeah.
If I don't try my hardest, I can always go like, well, I could have, but I just didn't because of this. And you get to protect your little dumb ego.
Right.
And you never have to risk anything. And you never have to grow. And you never have to face your shortcomings. And I think I spent a lot of my life doing that. And so I had this mental thing where I was like, I'm not going to do that, this. I'm going to fucking go for it. It's my first tournament at brown belt. This is high level shit. This is a high level tournament. I'm going to fucking go for it. And if I get destroyed, I'd rather know that and have that be there and something I need to work on and see than never know and keep myself safe and comfortable from these horrible, scary things.
Yeah.
And facing that and the repercussions about in my work and in my life and other things I've done was like, whoa, this is really real. I can't fucking fuck this up this time. I need to start a new chapter of my life with this. And so it was interesting to note leading up to this, when I found out my girlfriend was going to come, and my buddy was going to come, and my brother was going to come, and then a bunch of my team's going to be there. None of them are fighting that day, but they're going to come down anyway, see me fight at 9 a.m. in fucking Irvine.
Oh, shit. Was it Irvine this time?
In the past, I would get so anxious about that idea. And this time, something different happened that I got excited, and I was super looking forward to it. My last training that was hard was really tough. I was getting just my shit kicked in. I was so tired. I was getting tired walking upstairs. I assume from the caloric deficit of not eating
That's
enough.
also a big part of it too. Yeah.
I got horrible turf toe the Monday, like less than a week before, which
Would you describe turf
yeah,
toe
turf toe
for
is
the
a thing that
uninitiated?
happens in a lot of sports. Football happens a lot, where basically the way your big toe backs up bends backwards towards your foot, you hyperextend that way. Or I guess that would be that's a hyperextension, I think. Hyperflexion would be the other direction. Hyperextension of your big toe, and it hurts like fuck, and there's not really anything you do but rest on it. Really bad versions, there can be little fractures, but it's basically a little tendon sprain. But it makes it really hard. You realize how important your big toe is in
all of a sudden,
balance, power production, athleticism, speed.
All the things you need for ground fighting.
Yeah, I was just like, damn, this is going to be, I don't know. It was interesting to find that having a dark final practice that I just didn't feel my best at felt better. I felt like I was more excited to go back to fight, more excited to show what I could do, get another chance to do jiu-jitsu in a way that I felt would prove to myself and to the universe who was watching me that that's not who I really was the last day in training, getting beaten up by the other brown belts and just feeling so fucked up and just like, oh no, this is going to be a mess. Something happened where I was like, I'm going to kick ass. I'm going to leave everything out there. I'm excited to show people. And I was doing these visualization exercises the night before. And it might have helped too that, I took some kratom for my foot, which is a fake opiate thing. And I smoked some weed to help me go to bed at because I wake up like 5:30 in the morning.
Right.
And then my antidepressants before bed too, which just has a sleepy quality. And I put myself to bed, which I rarely do.
Yes, that is a great combination.
It's a great combination. I know. It was, and I think that has to do with some of because I was laying there and I read a couple pages of book. I did everything right. I didn't blue light myself with, horrible, just watching Netflix until I passed out. I read a couple pages of a book and then I turned the lights off and I laid there in bed and I was feeling sleepy and a little bit euphoric and just started thinking about the next day. I was visualizing it. I don't know. It was just like a new experience for me with anxiety-inducing events or fearful events where I just got happy and excited for it. And instead of being like, oh my God, all these people who love me are going to be there. I'm going to embarrass myself. What if I embarrass myself? I was just like, I'm so excited. I'm ready to show them what I do. Mm-hmm. And I stopped even hoping that my opponents were bad. I was like, because there's this headset. You're like, oh, well, it's over 30 guys too. We're just hobbyists. It's going to be, I hope they'll be no good. I'm going to be good. Instead, I was like, no, I hope they're fucking awesome. I hope they're as good as the brown belts who kicked my ass at school. I was like, I hope that I level up while I'm there and I get to put on a show. I just started having this weird, and I felt so good. And I was like, I'm going to win. I was like, I'm going to do good. This is going to be amazing. And it was just a new experience of running myself through these visualizations and having this very different positive response. And the next day, I don't know, I felt good. I felt loose. When I finally got the chance to get out there, I made weight. I dialed the weight so well.
Nice.
I had cut a little extra, so I got to eat the night before pretty well and get up and have I had a gluten-free bagel and eggs and just all this stuff. And I was ready to go. It was just so good feeling to go out there and have fun. And my first match just went great. I felt an odd certainty that I felt like I'd done my preparation. That's what they always tell you when you get afraid is fall back on what you did with your preparation. If you prepared well and you practice and you have that confidence that I showed up to training, I made the sacrifices I had to, I did my nutrition right, that you just go I don't even need to show up mentally. I did it all already. Yeah. Now it's just the
Go
day.
do what you do. Exactly.
Man, it felt so good. And I had my coach there and my team there, and to have my girlfriend and my buddy there to be like, hey, I saw him up in the stands, and I was like, dude, here we go. I'm just excited to show them. Even if I lost, I was going to be like, I'm going to do this for real. You're going to see. And it was just dope, man. I had a fucking Uchimata, kind of a shitty one, but felt great. It's a judo throw for people who don't know. Mm-hmm. And jiu-jitsu is notorious for not having good takedowns. That we're sort of these butt scooting guard pullers, and we don't really focus on the takedown. So takedown game is always so sloppy, and wrestlers and judo guys will make fun of it all day long.
As well they should.
They should, because we just focus on the second part, after you hit the ground, what happens. And so getting to pull that shitty Uchimata off that looked okay in pictures afterwards just felt good. And the whole first fight, I just felt like I was me. I played. Another thing I do in training a lot is you don't go to your A game. I feel like if you get good at something, you get bored of it. You're like, it's not, you want to.
Well, it's not only that, but you also want to get better at everything else. It's like, all right, guess what? I'm pretty good at guillotines. Guess what I'm not going to do for the next 6 weeks?
Right.
Throw a single guillotine so I work on everything else.
Right. Because what's the point?
Oh, what do you have? A smashy top game? Great. Why don't you work from your back?
Yeah. Why? What's the point of just beating up everybody in your gym with the same thing you do all the time? What points are you winning there? So in approaching this fight, my coach was like, I haven't seen you do an ankle pick like all year. Why don't you go back to your stuff that you're good at? And he was like, right. So I played my A game. I did the stuff that I love to do and I'm good at. And it just was amazing. My first fight, I think I had a little bit of a tighter mindset of like, I'm going through this guy and I'm just going to do this, but not even in a super aggressive. I was kind of laughing before the fight and be like, yeah, I'm psyched. Here we go. Waving to my friends and just, it was excited to be there, joking with the guy a little bit too. Cause of course we're the first fight of the day, 9 a.m. We get out there. All the coaches or the referees rather have to wait and face the same direction until they say, okay, fights are allowed to begin now. And then everybody, it's this exciting moment, 9 a.m., everything kicks off. And our little monitor was unplugged. So the ref couldn't see the score and he goes, the monitor. So we're sitting there waiting to like start. And I laugh with the guy. I'm like, of course, right? We wait 9 a.m. first fight, all warmed up. And then they're like, ours is the one. Yeah. Laughing about it. And then we go and we went, man. He was good. He was strong. I just felt like I played my game really well, and it felt so good to do what I do. I landed on top and just started passing and smashing, and I don't know. It's cool to just sort of
what did time feel like? How long was it? Was it 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7?
The 6-minute rounds is what they do for brown belt masters. 5 minutes is where they start you at white belt, and then it goes up by belt. In the adult categories, I think the brown belt matches are 7 or 8 minutes, but in masters they keep them a little shorter because they assume they were correctly.
What was the time? What did it feel like compared to like training? Like, did it feel longer than 6 minutes in your mind as you're changing position and like?
It goes back and forth for sure, because when you start to get tired and you look up and there's 2 minutes left, you're like, damn, I gotta maintain this top for 2 more minutes. But quickly there's a thought on the end of that goes, I can do this all day. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Underneath, sometimes it causes more panic because if you're down on points and you go, fuck, I only got 2 minutes to work.
Yeah.
And I know that if I'm on top, I feel good holding somebody. You know, I can lower my energy and work my technique really heavy, and I can make somebody really get stuck in the mud or force them to make mistakes if they want to move by not trying to advance my game at all, which if you're up on points is the correct thing to do.
Hang out. Exactly.
So I was doing that a little bit, but I felt good that I don't really like to roll like that. I really do like to look for submissions no matter what. And I felt psyched to finish that with a submission. I do a thing where if I'm on top and I know I have an advantage, I try to smother the other person and then create a vibe, because I have a fairly floaty top game where I try to give the other person a sense that they're getting loose, that like I'm getting loose. Oh, they're starting to get me off.
Yeah.
And I use it so that they overcommit and I can switch to something even more bad for them. In this case, his bucks trying to get me off mount were actually quite solid. And I did this thing where basically I wait. If someone has really strong bucks, I base. And on the third or fourth one, you start to loosen up a little. And you use that opportunity when they buck up and over to loosen up so that instead of riding them over, you kind of release slightly so they spin under your legs, and then you can take the back.
Just take the back easily.
And I did that, and it worked out. And I was attacking the back for a little bit. And long story short, I think it wasn't that he was bad. I think that I was forcing him into positions where he had to make mistakes to try. And it's kind of how I lost my second fight, where it's like, if you're down on points, you have to open up. You have to move and try things.
You have to start taking chances.
Yeah, and they
absolutely.
might get more points on their way to you finding a submission. I got lucky enough, and I had prepared well enough. I think I'll give myself that credit.
So just, again, for the layperson, I know you and I know this a lot, but if you submit somebody, the points don't matter, right?
No, there's no point. You could be up like 100-0, and if you tap out, you tap out. That's the beauty of this sport. That's why it's so good. There's also a scoring scheme of advantages where if you have close submission attempts or something that you don't quite get points but was so close and so dominant, they'll give you what's called an advantage. And they use those. Those don't even come into play unless the score is tied.
Right.
So you can have 24 advantages, but he's up by 1 point and he still wins. But if you're tied and you have more advantages than them, then those are what the secondary score they go to. So my second fight, after winning that first one, I don't know if I loosened up a little in my mindset of like, I got the one out of the way that I wanted. It felt good. It went perfectly.
Sure. How many people were in your
like 18 or 19? It
field?
was a big bracket.
Okay, so the bracket was 18 or 19.
Yeah, and since I didn't get a bye, if I had gone all the way, I think I would have had five matches
over
which would have been a lot.
Yeah.
I ended up having just the 2. The second one, again, I felt so good about it because of the thing we talked about. I didn't feel like I let myself down at all, or my team, that I had just tried my fucking hardest and left everything that I had. There was nothing left in the tank. I made a mistake in our takedowns, on our fights for takedowns, where in a little scramble, watching the tape back, I think I definitely could have snapped onto his back quickly and done just sort of a Marcelo hop onto his back and taken that and gotten points and been in a much better position. Or committed to this Kimura trap I was attempting. I sort of intellectually got stuck between the two places. And once you're thinking and trying to make choices without your body just doing it, you're already too late behind the curve.
Sure.
And the guy scores the 2 points for the takedown. I ended up in side control. And just, that was, I think, the deciding moment of the match. But I was psyched watching it back that it went real back and forth. I did a lot of guard recompositions and attempts at sweeps, and we came back to our feet a couple times. And it just was like a little bit of the barn burner that I hope to have, that at least if I'm going to lose, I'm going to be throwing the kitchen sink at the guy, and it's going to be a back and forth. I was happy that I never felt in danger of a submission. I felt I was close to submitting him a couple times. I'm sure watching the tape, he probably didn't feel in danger either. I don't know.
Exactly.
But I don't know. It just felt so good to go out and do this thing to the best of my abilities.
Yeah.
It was a first foray into brown belt. It didn't feel like this guy just fucking smashed me. It felt like it could have gone either way if a couple things were different, even though the score was 7-0 in his favor. It was one of those things that you're like, it could have easily been, if I had ended up on top and then I had just capitalized. That's just the nature of being a brown belt of jiu-jitsu. They're good at it. So if you give them an inch, they will take a mile as best they can. And it was just so fun to go compete, and it was a new feeling where I'm like psyched to do it again. You know? Also seeing my other teammates compete and being so inspired by their performances, just seeing people get out there. The team mindset's so strange in a solo sport like that, because you are out there alone, but there is this kind of quality of you're taking all the people you trained with you, and you're representing how tough they are. And I was saying leading into it that I didn't fear anybody else I was going to compete with at my level because of the people I fear in my gym. Because I was like, no one's going to be as smashy as this guy, or as professorial and knowledgeable as this guy, or as fast and scrappy as this guy, or as bladey and violent feeling as this guy. That I get to train with all these people who are so good that anybody I see in competition isn't going to be new to me.
Yeah, exactly. Because you've already seen it.
And it's just, there's kind of like I don't know. There's like a power and a feeling of honor or something too of your team, that you're like, I'm gonna do my best to make these people proud who helped prepare me too. I have to prove to them that when I give them a hard time, that it means something. That it's not just them.
Yeah.
I can take it out into the world and give them a hard time.
I can give other people a hard time.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I must say, dude, I'm super impressed with like the shift in mindset that
Thanks, man.
you had in the days leading up to and also post-fight, as far as just being willing to put forth effort and not holding back and not leaving anything in the tank.
Yeah,
it just means that you end up just showing up in life a whole lot more.
I think so. It's weird how it translates. Like, I mean, my hamstrings, that was another thing, is I was like, things I want to work on. There are technical details for sure, and also just conditioning wise, I'd like to be in a better, if you're going to be a competitive level grappler, you just got to make conditioning a bigger part of your game, strength and conditioning. It just makes such a difference. But I was, all my muscles were fried. My hamstrings from trying to pull these knee bars and things were just totally gassed. And I was, bummed. I was a little bummed that I lost, but I didn't feel bummed. I was bummed that I lost. I wasn't bummed that I had failed myself or my team. And it's weird to feel that translate to real life a little bit, to be like, well, where else can I show up this way? And I'm excited to do it again. And
I'm telling you, man, it's getting away from the sour grapes mentality of life, where it's just like, I didn't want those grapes anyways. Like, they were sour. Like, and just being willing to like walk through fear and put forth your best effort. And if it's not good enough, so it goes. Like, I think that part is so important. It's like, I don't know. For me, just interpersonally, the older I get, the less I care about what other people think of me, and the more I'm willing to put whatever it is on the line.
Yes, it's strange to find how much better it feels to fail truly, to have no mystery about where your shortcomings are, because you fucking tried. And
you test them. You're constantly testing them.
And now that you know where the weak spot is, you can go work on that thing instead of this murky, a million explanations for why you failed that have nothing to do with you. And, you know, a laundry list of, oh, he was fresher than me and I didn't have a bye. And, oh, he points fucked me. And if it was a real, that wasn't real fighting.
A real fight,
or whatever the fuck excuses, you know, he's bigger than me and I just didn't feel like cutting that much because it's just a hobby for me or whatever bullshit. None of those are even feel good. They don't. I don't care.
Try harder.
I don't care.
Try harder.
Try harder. Try smarter. Work harder. Prepare more. It feels so much better to look at my life and my grappling and go like, I can win at this level. And something that will make that more likely is if I go work on these things that failed in this version. And it really does feel like I can easily translate to all these worky aspects of my life.
Sure, absolutely.
That I've spent a long time not very honestly going like, this is why it doesn't work out for me. This is why this thing's not succeeding is because I'm not good at this thing or I don't do this thing or I don't want to do this thing that I think is fucking stupid or whatever. It's not my fault. And that's fine. That's true even. I'm not the kind of person, I don't think it's helpful to tell yourself that stuff's not true. I think it's just about like what serves you. Like which one would you prefer to focus on? The things that you can't control, they're totally legitimate. Let yourself understand that things are not fair and don't beat yourself up too much about them.
No, of course.
But it doesn't help me to only pay attention to those. And it feels so much better to live your life looking at the things that you can improve if you want to.
Absolutely. Failure is such an important part of my life. Like I fail all the time. I'm always amazed by people who are just like, oh, hey, man, like you're so successful and this and that. I was like, dude, I failed 7 times this morning before I got here.
Right.
Like I had 7 voiceover auditions that I didn't get. I missed a whole bunch of PR attempts at the gym. I got tapped out 14 times last night in 2 hours at the gym.
Right.
And because people don't see that, like,
yeah,
it creates this narrative that just isn't true. But it's like, no, I look forward to that. I look forward to all those things because it's like, maybe I had some impact on some of those things. Maybe if I trained smarter, maybe if I took more voiceover technique classes, or maybe if I wrote more, my writing would be better. And we would have gotten that writing job or whatever it is. Right. But like, none of that matters to me or slows me down in the slightest. I'm always just like, great. Well, I now know what I need to work on.
Yeah.
If I'm willing to take action on it, I now know what I need to do in order to improve my side of the street that I have responsibility for. But
yes,
like that is so important.
In jiu-jitsu, they say if you're not losing, you're not learning. And that is like so easy to say. And in jiu-jitsu especially, you fuck that up because your ego gets bigger. You're a brown belt now. You have to fucking beat the people who are lower than you. What if you get tapped by a blue belt because you're trying, or a white belt, if you're trying out weird new shit you're not good at and you want, you can't let them have that victory. No, fuck that. If you're not losing, you're not learning. And that ego eradication and then the reality check of like, let's pressure test this. Let's take a Saturday. Let's go down to fucking Irvine and see other psychos like me who come from around the country. That's the other nice thing about Pans or some of these international tournaments.
We are so lucky.
We're so lucky. I met this guy. I was so pumped to meet him. I forget his real name because I only know his Instagram name. On Instagram, he's Blind Grappler. He's this purple belt. He won a silver this year. He's from New Zealand. He's blind. He's this blind jiu-jitsu fighter who fucking won a silver medal at Pans at lightweight. So thank God I'll never have to face him. But I just think these badasses are so inspiring, and they came from fucking New Zealand to do this. People come from around the world to compete in these big tournaments. We're so lucky we're in LA, and it's like, I think Worlds is here again too.
Yeah.
SoCal.
Exactly. So what? You had to get up at 5:30 to drive down to Irvine?
Right.
That's cute,
I didn't have to
That's
get a
super
fucking
cute.
hotel. I didn't have to fly here.
You didn't have to fly 24 hours
pay
across
for all
the world.
my food, and yeah, it's just like a wonderful. We're very lucky, and it really is special. I don't know. I'm. It's so corny and like success win, bro, to be like, I'm so grateful for my fucking failures. I fucking want to fail, And I really do now. It's something I think I was so terrified of and avoided. You just can't
There's something to be said for walking through fear. Like, this is arguably a scary thing.
Yes.
And rejection sucks and fear sucks. But, like, as you walk through it and get more comfortable walking through it, the less scary it becomes.
I mean, it's fucking Pettis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Seeing him bleeding, blowing blood out of his fucking broken nose because Thompson's got better range than him and better timing and a little bit better technique. And it's this quality of, like, a round, almost 2 full rounds of another pretty guy punching you in the face every time you try to get close to him and being like, fuck, 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 keep my hands up, fuck, keep moving forward, fuck. And never going like, he's Muhammad Ali, right? He's prettier than me, he's faster than me, he's better than me. Just going like, fuck, wait, where's the crack? Where's the thing I can do? I know I have the tools. How can I do this? And that feeling is just, so things I know I want to work on for this one, that this idea that you're going to look for your moment and you're going to be able to win something that you shouldn't be able to win. There's an author of these books I love, these Heroes Die books. And I remember reading, he writes really good fight scenes in his books. And one thing that appealed to me when I first, found out about him and stuff was that he's a martial artist too and trained in all these martial arts. But he said this thing I always think about in like an interview where he was like, because the question was about like, how do you write good fight scenes or how do you do that? What? And he was like, I think I've done enough fighting and sport fighting and martial arts, whatever, that I've been in these scenarios. I have beaten somebody in a fight and been beaten in a fight just as equals. But I have also been better than people and beaten them. And I have been worse than people and beaten them. And I have been beaten by people who are better than me. And I've been beaten by people who are worse than me. And when you get that breadth of experience to realize that there's never absolutes, there's always things you can work on, it gives you this sense of constant possibility that even though you don't have as good a skill set or natural attributes as some opponent or obstacle in life, that there really is, like, if there's a will, there's a way. And even if there's not a will or a way, there's always a puncher's chance. This idea that you can look at it both ways. Yes, anyone can fall and use that to you could look at that as like, well, life will just fuck you. You don't know what's going to happen. A rock could fall out of the sky, which is kind of how I look at my life a lot of the time, generally. Yeah. Focusing on the, like, what fucking chance do I have? Not quite nihilism, but a little bit of that sort of, I have no choice. I have no agency. Yeah. Versus, like, looking for your angle and always believing in this possibility of success and then having this proof is in the pudding somatic sense of it. Looking back, it's like there's things I wish I could do better. And just mentally, I think time management and not panic management, but a little bit like of being like not really worrying less about the time, but using it more as a motivator of like, let's go, we got to go. A little bit of energy management and then just decisiveness and things that you just got to drill and train. But this idea that if you're not losing, you're not learning. And that on the flip side, winning's a habit. That like you practice over and over winning, locking in your techniques, locking in your responses to adverse situations so that overcoming them just becomes habitual. Yeah. It's so real in jiu-jitsu. And jiu-jitsu has been doing a lot more these last couple of years to turn around a lot of attitudes I have about me and my life because I realized like I never fucking have that attitude about fighting. I'm disadvantaged. The other guy's stronger and more powerful than me. I have he's already inside control. I have no fucking chance to get out of this. Fuck this. I'll just quit. Who cares? I'll wait till the round's over. Never in my life have I had that attitude while fighting. I'm always fighting to the end of the round, going. Even when I'm fucking exhausted and pissed at my body being like, I'm telling you to go. Why aren't you going? I'm still trying to go, But in life, I just gave up at some point. I just got too worn down by like trying at this things I'm passionate about and never quite breaking through. Enough little successes, but never the big thing. And looking at that and looking at your choice internally to go like, you chose to be defeated is such a wake-up call. And it's I don't know, it's fight sports that really brought me back to that realization and this possibility that like, I don't think I want to be that person,
I'm very excited for where things are going. Thanks, I want to leave us I want to leave us with this quote that I saw on Instagram from Gary Tonin, grappler, superstar grappler Gary Tonin. In an average 5-round grappling session, I will get submitted 15 times. Take that information and ask yourself if you really have no ego.
Yeah, man. I've seen that and I brought it up similar to my Gary Tonin, for people who don't know, is a very high level grappler, like world-class no-gi grappler. So the idea that you get submitted 15 times in class means you really are humbling yourself. You are two things. One, it means that you have really good people around you who keep you on your toes, who are dangerous to you, who will help you lose over and over again so that you can get better. And two, that you're trying things you're not good at so that you can get better at them.
You're not staying in your comfort zone and just going with your A game.
Exactly.
You're developing B, C, D, E, and F to try and get them up on par.
Extremely inspiring. Let's fucking get out there and fail more. I think the next tournament I'm going to do is on the 20th of April.
Oh, damn. You're
Just
getting after it.
Fairly local one. Just me and other teammates. I'm like, guys, let's make this
Let's make it a thing.
Let's just do it casually, you know? Let's fail and succeed casually. I don't know. Who knows? Doing this podcast has been part of it. We're starting new stuff. We're always like looking for stuff to do in like life to keep us motivated and moving and creative. Not productive, but creative, you know? I don't know. Anyway, thanks for letting me show and tell about my little my macaroni necklace, my tournament.
Yeah. No, listen, man, I thought it was important because, you know, we talk about so much in our show and tell, we talk about bigger concepts or like iconic things. And this time we really got a chance to bring it down to the micro level and being like, hey, what was your personal experience doing this thing that we talk about?
Yeah.
You know, and some of us, you know, it's been a couple years since we've competed, but I'm getting the itch.
I know.
I'm getting the itch.
It's fun. I think I highly recommend. I mean, because the other thing about it too is the realization that all of fighting also has too, which is that, yeah, you can look at it and say there's an absolute success and failure. I didn't get a medal. I lost the match, you know? But truly, the internal sense of a fight is that winning or losing at a fight has nothing to do with the outcome and everything to do with, did you fight or not? Did you show up and fight? And if you really fucking show up and fight and pour out everything you've got, I don't think at the end of the day you feel bad, you know?
Yeah.
There's this, I mean, this is sort of dark and strange. I'm going to take it here or whatever. But like, you know, in that Nature's Metal account, when you see animals eat each other.
Yeah.
There's a quality that's always over the animal's face that's getting eaten when it's finally over. That's like sort of weirdly peaceful, like weirdly zoned out. Like it's still fighting and it's still just like, this thing happens at jiu-jitsu too. All your anxiety about who's this guy is going to be. It's almost like your body knows fear is not useful to you once you're fighting because it goes away. If you stay frozen and in flight mode, that's my biggest fear is that you come out, you just stay scared. Oh, I don't play your game at all. You're too risky or too risk averse that you don't really thrive there. And it has never happened to me since my first tournament. Once you have contact, it goes away. And it feels like those animals, that there's this quality of like, yes, they literally lost. They're going to die and get eaten now. But there's something about their their brain that like, even in them getting eaten, it's more like that's just part of life. Some of us die, some of us live, some of us succeed, some of us fail. And as a human who can observe that in this third-party conscious way where we can observe our experience and pontificate on it, that the only thing that is a fucking failure in that is if you gave up or not. If you lost, hey, you just lost that day. The other situation or person was better than you on that day. They say that in fighting all the time. Today, he was the better man. He was the better guy. And that feeling, too, about what your rank is and where you are, is like, to me, I was talking to those people, it's like, it's not really about if you win or lose. It's like, can you hang? Do you have a good fight back and forth? And if you can do that, that's it, man. You're part of there. You're where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
I think, like, in life, it feels like that, right? We're like, if you're still swinging, if you're taking hits, but you're giving them back and you're refusing to go down until your body turns off for you and you don't have a choice, that's a fucking win to me.
Welcome to the Fight Stuff Mental Health podcast yet again. I love it. I love it.
Too.
I love where things go, man.
So I went a little long. I know, well, there's some helicopters cut out and stuff, whatever.
There's not that many helicopters.
I know. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us this week. And check us out at Fight Stuff Podcast on Instagram. You can email us at fightstuffpodcast@gmail.com. If you have a viral clip of the week or a subject you'd like us to talk about, check us out.
Or tag the podcast. That's also a very easy way to do it if you're already on the Instagram.
You can DM us a link there, too.
You can find me personally, ZekeThomas.com, or Where else can you get me?
Instagram.com/.
Yeah. On Instagram, of course. Zeke Thomas is rad. I am on Twitter, but I don't post anything. And
you can find me around probably just Googling my name. Not many people have the name Jarrett Sleeper, but I'm shifting up my Instagram to Jarrett Sleeper Poetry and Motion, because the poems I write and the weird workouts I do seem to be what people respond to the most there.
got to give people what they want.
I like it, baby. Let's lean into it.
Go where the water's warmest.
And also, you can see a cool photo of me hitting my crappling Uchimata. There's things I got to fix about it. I got to get him hips lower. I got to get my feet a little closer.
You can Photoshop that in.
Yeah, just fix it. Make him fly up in here.
Exactly.
All right, thanks, y'all. See you next week.
Bye. Fight Stuff is executive produced, edited, and hosted by Jarrett Sleeper and me, Zeke Rodriguez-Thomas, for Mind Jam Media. Our awesome theme song is by Jason Scardamalia. See you next week, Fight fans. Hey guys, since we recorded this podcast on Monday, Conor McGregor allegedly retired from the sport formerly known as mixed martial arts. This would be huge news if it's real, but the MMA community has largely questioned the validity of this news for two reasons. One, he was on Fallon talking about negotiating a July return to the octagon, literally the night before. Two, he's facing allegations of sexual assault back in Ireland, according to the New York Times. My personal opinion is that it's just another attention-grabbing misdirect, while Jarrett believes it could be the real deal. Trust me, it's a lot easier to walk away from prize fighting with $100 million in the bank and a whiskey that's about to take over the world.